Okay, good morning. So my name is Hanna Mäkelä and I work here at the FMI at the Climate Service Center. Let's start with an issue that maybe some of you, maybe many of you, have already participated or contributed. This first lecture is about the survey, online survey about reanalysis. So let's start with a short exercise. Does this look familiar to you? Have you answered the survey? Who has? Quite many. Good. You are not the only one, because we had in total almost 2,600 respondents from 15th November until the end of February. And that is a very good amount of responses. So first, something about the reanalysis user and application survey. The objectives of the survey was to understand the use of reanalysis products and their limitations, to survey the awareness of the scientific community on uncertainties in the reanalysis and their effects on these to deliver climate services, and to collect information on requirements from the scientific community regarding the improvement of reanalysis for better climate services. The results of this survey, they will be used to assess how reanalysis data could bring wider benefit for research and climate services. In other words, if we look at this figure, we see that reanalysis, they are here, and behind them there are strengths and limitations, methods, errors maybe, and there are users, and there are climate services, and there are end users. So the quick questions that we would like to have answers to based on this survey are, how aware are these reanalysis data users of the uncertainties and limitations that are behind the reanalysis? So what is their knowledge and awareness of the strengths and weaknesses? Another question is that what kind of improvements in reanalysis do the users need to better deliver climate services? So what are the requirements from the users to the reanalysis? And the third question, how are the climate services, the climate research, affected by these uncertainties and gaps in the reanalysis? So what are the implications of the reanalysis and the underlying strengths and limitations to the climate services and further to the end users? So these are the questions that we are now looking for answers based on the survey and the results of the survey. And these are also the questions that you are asked to think about and discuss about in the discussion part after my lecture. The main target groups of this questionnaire were the existing users of reanalysis datasets and users with the possible contribution to future climate services. So that would be governmental institutes and research institutes. And distribution of the online questionnaire was like this. So it was added to several web pages, also distributed to regional and meteorological offices and to universities, research institutes, and also the European Centre, they made a large effort by doing large emailing operations. The questionnaire consisted of 11 questions in the following categories. So there are 5 categories. The first one looks at the background of the respondents. So there's a question about the respondent sector, the field of work, what is he or she working with, and the regional focus, what work region is she or he working with. And then questions about reanalysis data, about the variables that he uses and the datasets that he uses. Questions about the applications and methods, and also about the feedback data of reanalysis. And then this part, the user awareness and needs, this is mainly the core of the question, where you can actually identify the things that that should be done better, or where are the gaps and where are the needs. There are questions about reanalysis data characteristics and also about user needs. And then finally about climate services, so the climate service activities that are urged for, that people are wishing that they should have these climate services in future. So let's first look at the summary of all respondents. Here's the background of the respondents. It was optional to leave one's background info, so that 904 respondents left their contact info. That's 35% of all respondents. And that amount of people, they came from 94 different countries. And in here you can see the distribution of those. So Asia was a very large amount from Asia, and Europe. Those together are 3/4 of the respondents. And then North America, South America, Africa, and Australia. And the top 10 countries are China, over 150 respondents, India, USA, Germany, and so on. The background of the respondents looks like this. The sector of work. So majority of the respondents, they come from public sector, from the research and development operations, and also education sector was a large. And then smaller ones, private sector, public sector, and so on. And the field or subject of work is in the middle one. So majority of the people, they work with climate and weather, and oceans and seas. And then there was a very large list of subjects that people work with, and these are the top 10 that they mentioned. So there's air quality, snow and ice, energy, geophysics, and so on. Regional focus of work, top 10, is the whole world, the whole globe is the first one. Over 30% studies that. And then there's Europe and Asia, and then the rest of them are less than 10%. And for these questions, you could choose all the options that apply. So what kind of atmospheric reanalysis people use? Almost 80% of the respondents, they reply that they use ERA interim dataset. ERA 40, that was 50% of them, and then the reanalysis from the NCAP. So if we look at the pie, you can see that the ERA interim, ERA 40, they are almost, and if you include ERA 15 also, they are almost half of the reanalysis used. And because also in this one you could choose all that apply, people chose typically 3 different reanalysis datasets. Then if we look at the use of the essential climate variables, there was given a list of these variables, and then you could choose if you work with this variable and use reanalysis data for this, or if you work with this but do not use reanalysis data. And then we listed the variables in order in respect of what is the proportion of using reanalysis from all users. So here you can see top 10 variables that people are working with and using reanalysis to work with. So you can see there are this is atmospheric upper air temperature and atmospheric surface pressure, atmospheric upper air wind speed and direction, also wind speed and direction on the surface. So they are mainly variables from the atmospheric surface and upper air. And also sea surface temperature is the kind of variable that people are using reanalysis to study. And then the opposite end of that list, so the variables that people are studying but not using reanalysis are from the oceanic surface and also subsurface and also from terrestrial variables list. And then a question about reanalysis input observations and feedback data. So you can see the given options and the response to those options. And quite surprisingly, 50% of the respondents said that they do not know what this is about. And then these choices that maybe indicate that the respondent is aware what is it about and has also used it, the share of those is very much smaller. So this question is maybe one of those where you can indicate or where you can kind of pick those people who are best informed or maybe least informed users. These guys who have chosen these options, they are the ones who actually are maybe the best informed. And this very large amount of people, there are at least something that you could do better with these ones. So user awareness and needs. These are very important figures where you can also indicate the gaps and the needs that people have. There were different statements where you can choose that you agree if you choose 1 or disagree with 5, or then you can skip the question. And in this figure, I have combined the options fully or somewhat agree. They are blue, so that's 1 and 2. With red one are those who answered 3, so they are in B3, or they didn't answer at all. And with the green color, you have those who fully or somewhat disagree, so 4 and 5 options. And this is now looking at all respondents. So there are statements about data access and availability, and in general, you could say that people are, well, about 50% or around 50% people, they are quite happy with it. The data is easy to access, the data policy is not too strict, data files are not too large, and it can be easily imported to my software, and it's not available too late for my needs. For data resolution is based on time. There are more red color, at least here and here. And especially here, you can see that the red bars are quite large, indicating that people are in B3 or they did not answer, which may be an indicator that they do not actually know about the resolution issues of the datasets they are using. And this is also one of those questions that we can identify the people that are best informed or least informed. Continuing with the similar graphics about data quality and representation of uncertainties. You can also see a quite large red color here about the biases compared with observations and also time-varying biases. So this is also a region that needs improvements or needs information, more information about. And also the low one, the uncertainties are well characterized. People are not really agreeing with that. About the background information of the reanalysis datasets, we have issues in the observation input to reanalysis. People want to know more about that, and they also wish that there would be more training material in the internet available. For the literature and websites, people are more happy with. For the future climate services, what people wish for the given options. Well, in general, this was similar than the previous ones, that if you indicated number 1, then you fully agreed and you wished for this climate service, and if you indicated number 5, then you fully disagreed. And the average from all respondents was all for all the suggested future climate services. It was higher than lower than 2.5, meaning that all the climate services were very welcomed, but the most wanted tasks are here in the top. So they are handling about the interpolation and production of grid datasets based on observations, and also statistics based on observations, and homogenization of weather station data. So quite important task relating to the observation set and the background information of the reanalysis data. And then just a few examples of the different subgroups that we could identify from the all respondents. So the best informed, who were identified based on the questions about the feedback data, so who did know what the feedback data is and had used it, and who agreed on that they know about the spatial the differences between the spatial true resolution and the nominal resolution in time and space. And there were 170 respondents. These kind of people, 7% of all of the respondents. And then the least informed users who did not know what the reanalysis feedback data is and did not know about the resolution differences. And they also indicated that they do not know enough to work with the data. And there were 245 respondents fulfilling this definition. And I will just show you two figures about these relating to the use of essential climate variables of the best informed and least informed. So people saying that I work with this variable and use reanalysis data for this. For the atmospheric surface variables, you can see that here with the blue one you have the best informed, red one means the least informed, and green for the all respondents. You can see that the best informed bar is higher, except in here where the least informed actually is the highest bar. So they do work with air temperature on the surface. For the atmospheric upper air variables, you have the best informed users doing most of the study. But then when looking at atmospheric composition and oceanic surface variables, you can see that the best informed group is really coming up. So they are indicating that they are working with these variables more than, especially more than the least informed, but also more than the all respondents. But these are the kind of filtering that you can do from the data set. And also now, after this presentation, when you're discussing, you can think about what would be interesting to know from your point of view, and maybe giving some ideas for the future work. And then just a short look at this kind of filtering, because almost 80% of the respondents, they indicated that they have used the European Centre ERA interim reanalysis. We would like to know how about those who hasn't really used any product from the EC, the European Centre. So we have almost 400 respondents, those who use ERA interim only, and those who are not using any European Centre reanalysis, they were 241. So if they are not using European Centre, what are they using? So here's the figure of those. What you could expect. The most used are from the NCEP, taking more than half of the reanalysis. And then, for example, if you look at the user awareness and needs for the data access and availability, you can see that the people who are using ERA interim, they are quite happy for the data access and availability, whereas there are more the red color here with those who are not using European Centre data.